LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. An LDG desktop tuner works automatically with nearly any station and up to 1,000 watts. LDG power tuners are ideal for portable and mobile use as they consume almost no current and can be powered by internal batteries that last up to a year. LDG tuners are backed by our 2-year, fully transferable warranty and our legendary customer service, the best in the industry. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel, and it's time for another 30-day review. This time we're going to look at an HT, a Yaesu FT-4XR, and we'll see. It's a dual-band 5-watt VHF, UHF FM, the ultimate compact handheld transceiver. At least that's how it's packaged, and it retails for $89.95. You can get that, I'm sure, at stores like HRO and wherever you like to buy your ham radio stuff. Right now, HRO is out of stock. Perhaps 100 Watts and a Wire purchased the last ones. We sent them out. You're saying to yourself, Christian, how do I become a reviewer? I would like to do this. Very simple. Get your 100 Watts and a Wire ID, and you go to 100wattsandawire.com to pick that up, and you go to 100 Watts and a Wire, and just look for that ID section. Very simple form. Within a couple of days, you're sequentially issued your ID, and when you get it, you go over to the 30-day tab and say, look, I'd like to be a reviewer. You just send it in one time, and you're in there for good, for the length of the program. When I run out of dough, we run out of dough. But for now, we'll continue on. And what happens is the show will send out a ham radio product or ham radio adjacent product, and our reviewers will spend 30 days taking it, doing whatever they want to do. If it's an antenna, whether it's a radio, whatever it is, they'll spend 30 days with it, and then they come back and we talk about it. This way, you're not getting it from me. You get it from your peers, people in our community, and they can tell you what they think about it, and you decide if it's something that you're interested in. Okay? Very simple. So this time around, we have Brett, Whiskey Yankee 7 Bravo Golf, and also Ben, Kilo X-Ray 4 Tango Quebec. And we're going to take a look at this product, the Yaesu FT-4XR. About 7 categories, and then we look at the overall rating. 5.5 to 5.9. Did they like it? We'll find out. Let's go over with Brett. We'll find out what he thought about things here. Good day to you, sir. Thank you for spending your valuable time reviewing this product and giving your feedback, your critical eye, and your skills to this piece of equipment. And this one's easy. This one usually is satisfying or not satisfying, but it's the packaging. What did you think, Brett, when this arrived at your door?
Well, it's pretty much a plain cardboard box with dividers in it. No surprise there. Everything was neat in plastic bags. The only really interesting thing that they included that I didn't expect in the package was this. They included a German power plug, and I'm not sure why, because after all, this is being shipped to the United States. But, well, if I go traveling, I guess this will be convenient. Other than that, no real surprises in terms of packaging.
Well, that is interesting. It's a Japanese company, so I don't understand that one either, but it's interesting. I wonder if you can use that on other equipment, too. I don't know anything about that.
It fits their AC adapter. I don't know if it would fit any other AC adapter besides theirs.
All right. So, okay, on packaging for you, typical, either very good or, I don't know. Let's go over to Ben. Kilo X-Ray 4 Tango Quebec. Tell us what you think. You do a lot of traveling and packaging, get your packages sent, handled, and all that sort of deal. What do you think when this radio showed up at your doorstep?
Well, when it finally got there, so it went to my old Tennessee address initially, and I got in contact with some family that was over there, and then said, "Hey, send that box on up to me." So finally got it. Got it all in one piece, and nice packaging, outer box with packing material in it, and then the just the typical Yaesu packaging. Everything all compartmentalized and everything, and wrapped up in plastic, and it's very very nice.
All right, good deal. Yeah, you moved. You actually moved your home from one place to the next, and it was sort of in between the time
Right,
when you won the
right.
lottery for this radio. But I'm glad you finally got it, and you
Oh
were
yeah.
able to spend 30 days with it. So that's good news. All right, our 30-day review continues with the manual. Now, this is right now. I think we have a couple of technical fellows with us. See, I know them a little bit from the 100 watts and a wire community. And we'll see. Sometimes the manuals fall short, sometimes not enough information, sometimes a critical eye happens in the manual. Let's see what Brett thinks. Whiskey Yankee 7 Bravo Golf. I consider you a technical mind, sir. When you looked at the manual, hopefully you looked at the manual, needed to look at it just a little bit. What did you think of it?
Thank you, Christian. Well, I was not impressed by the manual that came in the package. It was thin. It was like a little leaflet. It only really told you how to turn the thing on and how to change a couple of settings. But there was a second manual that didn't come with the radio, and that was called the Advanced Manual. The only way to get that was to go to Yaesu's website. That one was very complete, much more thorough. There were all sorts of quirks and special keys listed in there that you couldn't have figured out otherwise. So I would tend to rate the manual that was in the package at the low end of the scale, but the manual that was online was very, very good.
So it's fair to say you're a technical guy, right? Many of us aren't. I'm not. So having a manual that's pretty detailed and clear for a layman, I'll call myself a layman in terms of tech. It's I need a little bit extra. I consider you a technical guy. The information there wasn't enough. Was it clear to you? How did you take the information itself?
Well, the information in the manual that came in the box barely gave me enough to program a channel on the handheld, which is something that everybody has to do. I wasn't very impressed. It went into some of the special keys, but not all of them. And I could not have done with it. Even being a non-technical user, I don't think I could have done with that. That's the reason why I say, if you buy this rig, definitely go to the website, download the advanced one. Especially if you wanted to do anything like scan channels, definitely do that, because they don't explain it in the leaflet that comes in the box at all.
Okay, thank you for that. Ben, what do you think? Some people like very simple instructions. Some people don't like it at all. And then some like to actually have that physical manual in the hand. You could take it. You're a guy who travels the country quite a bit. It may be valuable to have a manual in your hand that you can look at. Then again, you're also a computer guy. Tell me where you fall with the manual and what you thought.
Well, the manual. I mean, it was. I didn't think it was a terrible manual. I mean, it was good enough to get you on the air. I read through it, and there was a couple settings in there I couldn't find. I downloaded the advanced manual, and then finally reached out to Brett and said, "Hey, how do you set this?" And so he sent me a note back and said, "Do it like this," and that perfect. That works. So, it's good. You do have the paper manual. It's the first one I've read front to back in a while, but I would rate it okay.
I think it's great that you had some trouble and you called Brett. You got help from Brett. That's excellent. I don't know how you figured out you were in the same cohort for this, but that is cool. All right, the 30-day review continues now. We're looking at the Yaesu FT-4XR. This is a dual band 5-watt VHF UHF FM. They're calling it the ultimate compact, but I don't take their word for it. I take our community's word for it. And this is where it gets tricky for me. I had a Yaesu radio, and I'm not holding it against this particular thing, but I got really turned around. Being a part of the ICOM landscape, it was different. Not necessarily this radio, it wasn't this radio, but I need that ease of use And Brett, what did you think in terms of using this thing? Easy to use or no?
Well, once I programmed it, it was fairly easy to use, but it did have some drawbacks. The channels, when you program channels into it, it only lets you name them with 5 characters, and that's a little short to really describe what it is that channel is. Also, it has a feature called a home channel where you push one button to get to that channel that you use the most. You can't name that one at all. So I found that a little difficult. I tried to program the radio at first by hand, and then I tried to use Chirp, and then I tried to use Yaesu's own software. The Chirp driver, unfortunately, I don't recommend it. It's beta quality. It didn't transport settings from other radios very well, and so it's really not ready for prime time. Yaesu's own software worked better, but of course, it couldn't accept settings from other brands of radios. When I did program it, I discovered that I needed a special cable. This doesn't use the standard Kenwood programming cable that you use with a lot of HTs. It uses a special one, which is hard to find. It's got a micro plug, a 2.5 millimeter plug. You can see here. And it's it's an open collector bidirectional serial port. I know that's a mouthful, but that's it. None of the other brands use that, and so you have to get or build the specific cable. Once you do that, though, you can program it. It's not that hard to figure out. All the standard settings are there. The other thing which was interesting to set up was scanning. I like to set my HT to scan several channels, and this one is set up so that if you just start it scanning, it scans every channel you programmed into the radio, and that's not necessarily what you want. So there's there is a way to change the settings so that it only scans certain channels, and that is a little awkward. You have to go into the advanced manual to find it. One really cool ease of use feature, though, on this is that it has instant weather. If you just go ahead and you hold down, this is only documented in the manual, it's not obvious, you hold down the number 1 key.
Forecast for southeast Wyoming and the eastern Laramie Range, including Cheyenne.
You get the weather right away, and that's and that's a very nice feature to have if you are out in the field and you need the weather. So I'd say overall not bad. I really wish that the user interface were a little less opaque, but then it's a tiny radio with a simple segmented screen. So, well, you're trading size and lots of extra keys for compactness.
All right, thank you for that. Ben, talking about ease of use here with menus. I remember the Yaesu having so many menus, and then I was like, oh man, there was so many just to change a certain thing. The 5-character thing he said, I mean, some call signs are, 6. I know I have 5, and you have 5, and he's got 5, but some people have longer. So that's a little tricky, but not a deal breaker. What did you think?
I mean, it's easy to program by hand. I forced myself to learn to do that first, and I had a few things programmed in it, and then I ordered the cable, the programming cable from HRO, and was able to, they got it to me, and I had RT System software for this radio, and hooked it up, and was able to program it just super easy with the software. Still, like when I'm out, like this week, I'm out in Pennsylvania. Well, that's nowhere near any of my normal repeaters. It's easy, like I said, it's just easy enough to program up the local repeater out of repeater book by hand, and then you're on the air with them.
Are you the kind of guy, I'm just curious because you travel so much with your job, do you program ahead of time, or do you get to that town and then look it up in your book and then spend some time programming? How do you do that when you're on the road?
I use the repeater book app on the phone, and when I get there, you just hit the search, and it'll list the repeaters near you, and just start plugging them in and trying them.
All right, interesting. Thank you for that.
Yep.
All right, our 30-day review continues now with a bench test. A little bit different here. I think maybe, we'll see how they used it, okay? We'll find out how they used it, or if they did any A/B testing with other HTs. Let's find out what kind of ham we're dealing with here in the way they tested this technology. Brett, WY7BG, in terms of a bench test, did you put this up against anything else to test it out?
Yes, Christian, I did. I put it up against the HTs that I use most of the time. I have a couple of Wushan HTs, and I compared it to those. And for the most part, the comparison was pretty favorable. I hit repeaters to test that, and local repeater, and participated in local net. That worked fine. I went ahead and did simplex, and the range seemed to be about the same as most other HTs in this category. It was very sensitive. It picked up noise, and it did pick up the ISS when it was sending SSTV overhead very well, which I thought was very interesting. Overall, I'd say it was a pretty good performer for sort of a Baofeng class of radio. There was only one thing I didn't like about it, and I can show you what it is here live. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to call it using my Wushan HT and put it up to the microphone. WY7BG testing. You hear that squelch tail?
Yeah.
None of my other radios have that, and it really is loud. And that's the one thing that really annoyed me about the radio. After everything I heard, after every transmission I received, there was this at the end, and it didn't mute it at all. So that was my only beef with the performance. Otherwise, it worked fine.
Okay. So you categorize it with your Baofeng, Wushan in that class, although it's a little more expensive. You put it in about the same performance. Bench test wise.
Yes, about the same performance, and again, I think it is a bit more sensitive than some of them, which might pull you through. In the if what you're hearing isn't just more noise, that could be helpful.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Ben, let's talk about it. Did you do any A/B tests, that sort of deal with it, comparing apples to oranges, and what'd you think?
Well, I did. I compared it with my Yaesu FT-5D. And as far as reaching the repeater, which is about 20 miles from where I live back in Virginia, from my house, and both of them got in about the same. You got a 5-watt radio, and you're going 20 miles with it, trying to get the repeater. And yes, I got. During the evening nets, I would get, it would take me a couple times to get through, because you get somebody running a mobile station or a base station, and they're going to walk right all over the 5 watts. But I was able to check in regularly with the radio on the nets.
Okay. All right. So there you have a bit of a bench test, an A/B. I knew these guys would take this one and put it up against another one, just plain curiosity. We'll have a ham go and test one opposed to the other. So let's continue with our 30-day review. This time we're looking at the Yaesu FT-4XR. It's a handheld, handy talkie, $89.95. And we're going to lump in performance here. I want to see if the guys, as they used it over the weeks, I know you do a bench test, look at one to the other. Let's see how it played out over the weeks. Did they put a different antenna on it? That kind of thing. Let's start with WY7BG, Brett. Now, I hope that you took this out and beat it up just a little bit, dropped it in a mud puddle or whatever you would do. Tell me what you did. If you liked the rubber duck, you didn't. If you changed it, what did you do with it over the days?
Well, I didn't really beat it up terribly, but it does look very waterproof. I did splash it, a little bit once, and it, didn't seem to have any problem with that. I ran it off of a car battery and charged it off of a car battery. It seemed to work okay. So I'd say in terms of that sort of performance, it was just fine. I did sometimes have trouble seeing the screen. It wasn't very bright or very big. I don't know if that really counts as a performance criterion, but for the most part, it seemed very rugged, and it's kind of cute, and it works. I did attach it to another antenna. I put it on my J pole, And again, that's where you really heard the sensitivity. It really picked up just everything in the area, including truckers doing illegal transmissions. I'm right near an interstate, and I'd say no problem at all with the performance. Probably just a little bit better than the Baofeng, which uses the same chips inside.
Interesting. Okay. Ben takes this out on the road. Our listeners listening on your car, on your exercise machine, you can't see this, but he did show me what this big shiny antenna he's got on there. Tell me what you did, what modifications you did to the radio during the weeks. Oh, no. I can still hear you. Go ahead. You're all right. You're there.
Okay. Good. So the big antenna. That's the signal stick from. Oh shoot! I don't remember.
That's okay. It looks like it's about 18 inches, 24 inches.
Yeah, it's about 18 inches. The problem I had with it, and with this antenna and the factory antenna, it would come loose. So the factory antenna not as quickly, but I did notice it with it as well. So I got a O-ring, stuck it in the top around the connector, and then screwed the antenna back down on top of it, and it's fine now. It doesn't come loose anymore. But I mean, it's a good little radio. It's a handy size for travel, like you said. I mean, I've got the rubber ducky in my bag over here too, so if I have to shorten it up, I can. But
did you notice any difference between what you were trying to do and where you were trying to reach, or is it just sort of a mental thing? I know they should always perform a little bit better than the rubber duck, as we say. You kind of want to get away from that as soon as you can, at least they say. Right. But did you notice any performance differences? You receive better with a larger antenna?
Did have a better receive, and I think it had a little bit better signal going back out. And I did notice a difference trying to reach the repeater there at the house. So, okay. So the signal stick was pretty good stuff.
I'll have to look at that. Now you've turned me on to something new. Damn it. I got to spend some more money on a signal stick. Brett, did you have another comment that you wanted to add to the antenna?
Well, just minor things. I tried a counterpoise. I don't know if people are familiar with the quirky QRP zip antenna.
Oh no!
And
guys.
That really did improve the performance of the little rubber duck that they give you a lot. It'd probably do even better if I had put a third party antenna on it. The other thing I did was that I put, as I think you can see this here, a BNC connector on it. And what this lets you do is it lets you snap the antenna off quickly. That solves the problem of the antenna coming loose, because it now has once you do that, it has a bayonet connector that just stays. Oh. So I recommend that to people who are using this radio.
BNC connector on the, got it. Thank you for the tip. Very cool. All right, we are studying now the Yaesu FT-4XR, the dual band 5-watt VHF UHF FM. They call it the ultimate compact handheld transceiver, and we're taking a closer look at it, talking about ultimate compact. Now this is going to depend. We're going to talk about the form factor. How's this thing fit in your hand? Well, all guys are built different, so we don't know. This could be too small for somebody, so let's check it out. Brett, what do you see in terms of, your form factor?
Well, it's the smallest HT that I've used, and it's actually kind of cute. They sacrificed screen quality to make it small and to still give it long battery life despite the smaller form factor. But as long as your fingers are not too big for the buttons, it works fine. And it was very handy. When I took it on the road, I was able to pack it very easily and, had to feel around, almost lost it in my pocket. It was so small. So if you're looking for something compact as opposed to something slightly bigger like the FT-65, then it's definitely a win.
Well, good deal. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Ben, let's talk about it. I don't know. I've seen you a couple of times. Your stature, you look like a big fella from Tennessee. That's all I know. Tell me about this. Is it the form factor of this radio? Is it something that's going to get lost in your pocket, in your bag, or is it something you feel comfortable with?
For me, it's the small size of the radio is great. I mean, as far as traveling around with it, it makes up what you gain in the small radio. You lose by having to take a desk charger with you. Any other Yaesu radio I've ever had, handheld, always had a way to charge it off a wall wart. I wish this one had that as well, but it doesn't.
Okay. Good to know. All right. Now, many people want to get to the part of the 30-day review with the pros and the cons. We've been laying out systematically a little bit about this HT as we've gone along. Hopefully, you're getting a good idea as you listen, what these guys put it through, how it worked for them. Is it worth $89.95? That's a question I'm going to definitely ask. Let's go over to Brett and ask him the pros and cons of this radio as he saw it. What do you think, Brett?
Well, let's see. The pros are it's small, it's light, it's got some neat features like the weather feature I showed you. It's very sensitive, which is which is great. It got a few trick buttons, like a button to just open the squelch if you want to listen for the faintest signal, and it's on the inexpensive side, but it's not as cheap as the cheapest Baofeng. But on the other hand, it's built better. So I'd say those are definitely pros. In terms of cons, well, it's got that segmented display rather than the pixelated display you see on most radios, and that makes it a little harder to read. Scanning is tricky to configure, as I mentioned. The menu system is a little bit awkward, and it's only a dual band radio. It's not a tri-band, so if you want 220 megahertz, you're going to have to get a whole separate HT. The antenna is just okay. You may want to replace it with a bigger one, and a counterpoise, as I mentioned, is definitely recommended. And the biggest con for me, again, is that at the end of every transmission, there was a burst of static, and I wish they could fix that.
Thank you for that. Ben, pros and cons for you.
Pros and cons. Pros are its size. Battery life is great. You got to figure most of the time this thing's on, you're just monitoring anyway. 16, 18 hours on the battery, just monitoring is not a problem at all. I forget and leave it on when I turn in for the night and wake up next morning, it's still be on, the battery still be, at least half full. So it was real good for that. The cons, this radio has a completely different menu system for the Yaesu handhelds that I'm used to. I've had a FT2. I've got an FT5 now, and then this one. I mean, it's just completely different from them. When you set a tone for repeater access, golly. So the other Yaesu radios, you can set it for transmit tone, transmit and receive, or none, just by a couple of clicks. This radio, you actually have to either, and when you come up to set the tone, the first one that pops up is a receive tone. So you can't, that I was able to do, you can't set that to always off. I don't normally put a tone in receive. And so each time you have to go in there and you have to set your receive code to 0. Then you have to make another button push on the keypad to get to the transmit tone. It's a little wonky, a little different than what I'm used to on the other Yaesu radios, but I was able to figure it out, but just aggravating at times.
Understood. Brett, I got two more questions for you guys, but I want to see if there's anything we missed. Before I get to your rating, was there anything else that you wanted to add here?
I think I've covered pretty much everything.
Well, that's good. Then I got my questions for you. Number one, this will be for both of you. Would you buy this radio with, as we said, it's $89.95 with your money? And if you got to go answer that, that's totally fine. It's not a problem. I can wait for you.
Just muted it.
Okay, it's all right. If it's an emergency, do your thing. Would you buy this product?
I'm not sure. If I needed something very compact, I would. Otherwise, I would probably opt for for its big brother, the FT-65, which, interestingly enough, is the same price. You get a few more buttons, but it doesn't. And you get a better display, but it doesn't fit as nicely in your pocket.
Got it. All right, now let's talk about your overall rating, a 5.5 to a 5.9. Where would you put this?
I'd probably put it about a 5.7 or a 5.8. There are some things I wish they did differently, but for what it is, it's pretty good.
Well, thank you for that. Ben, would you buy this with your money? $89.95. Would you be in the market? Say you were just a new ham coming into it. You know the brands. You know the hype about the Bofang and the Wushan. And yep, they're cheaper, $25, but kind of disposable. I'm doing air quotes here for our listeners. Kind of disposable. Falls in the river, you don't feel like it. This is what I've heard, right? Or do you buy something where you feel you step up? You get Yaesu, you get ICOM, you get Kenwood. Now you start to get into the brand of it. Knowing what you know today after 30 days, would you spend $89.95 on this radio?
Well, I already have once. So I purchased this radio. And then within about a month of buying it, I bought the FT-5 and decided that the FT-5 was getting all the love. And the FT-4, I went ahead and sold it on to another one of our Discord members. And then I just kind of giggled when this one came up, when I came back on the list for this one. And
you can't shake it.
You know what? Yeah, I didn't give it. I didn't give it enough use when I initially had it. And yeah, after using it just here this past 30 days plus, it's been a great radio, and yeah, I would recommend it.
Oh, great. There you have it. So your overall rating, 5.5 to 5.9, what are you going to give it?
5.9.
5.9. Wow. Okay, cool. Yep. We got a 5.7 with a 5.8 on the peaks from Brett and a 5.9 from Ben. So very good. I just want to thank our friends. Brett, these are members of your community, your peers. Brett is Whiskey Yankee 7 Bravo Golf. Thank you so much for doing this and taking the time to review it. I really liked how it came together and very thorough. I knew we were going to get that from you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to do it again anytime.
All right, you're back in the pool. So when it comes around again, we're going to call for you. Ben, thank you so much. I know you're a very busy man doing a lot of travel. You're very engaged in our community. I appreciate you and the time you took with this. Thank you so much for coming in and talking about it.
Well, I enjoyed it and was surprised to get selected, but glad and would welcome the chance to do it again sometime.
You're going back in the pool. You guys are both going back in the pool. A very good review there. So that'll give you a little more information on the Yaesu FT-4XR dual band 5-watt VHF, UHF, FM. They call it the ultimate compact handheld receiver. So you can check that out at wherever you like to get your ham radio gear. And if it's on your list, if this helped you make the purchase or not make the purchase, that's what we're doing it for. So I'm not the one that's telling you, go buy it, because everything's great when you hear the host talk about it. This is your peers, and that's what 30 days is all about. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Check out 100wattsandawire.com for all of the information. You get your 100-watt ID there. You can sign up for this program. The 30-day program is right there on the website. We'll see you in Discord. We'll see you on Facebook. And, of course, we'll see you on the Sunday Evening Net. 73 for now. May the dogs run by your side. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. 73.
To join the 100 Watts and a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com.